Rolling.
The other day we talked about how muscle imbalances are the cause of postural dysfunctions, and postural dysfunctions are the cause of multiple sources of back pain, whether it's sciatica, herniated disc, spinal stenosis, spondylolisthesis, and thus ultimately causing your pain. We talked about working at a root cause level to address the issue at a root cause, and then everything above that has to benefit. We talked about how there is no such thing as stretches and exercises for a particular type of condition, but rather stretches and exercises for addressing muscle imbalances to correct postural dysfunctions. So today I want to go over one simple stretch. It's one stretch that addresses a lot of different muscles. And if you cannot do this, one of the things that I will suggest is that you work to try and get to be able to do this. If you can't do it over time, I would suggest that you take a more in-depth approach to trying addressing your back pain, regardless if it's a spinal stenosis, spondylolisthesis, herniated disc, it doesn't matter. Again, to address it at a root cause, we're going to be able to help you. So let's take a look at this stretch. I want you to put your feet shoulder width apart, toes slightly toed outward, so you're like this, and simply come into a deep squat. The trick to this is making sure that your heels stay flat. You can see that my heels are flat, my feet are flat, my butt is all the way down. If you can get into this position, then we most likely know that some of your imbalances are stemming from weaker muscles, not necessarily tighter muscles. So there's an imbalance in your strength, not necessarily an imbalance in the muscle tightness. Now, I'm going to come up. If you cannot get into this position, there are some adaptive approaches you can take. Widen your stance. Come down. As you get better, you can thus narrow it. One other way is to take a counterweight and put it out in front of you. Because what's going to happen is the tendency is that if you can't do it and you go too far, you're going to end up falling backwards. Which brings me to my caveat. If you're going to try this, realize that if you have a total hip replacement, you shouldn't do this. If you're going to try this, make sure that there is plenty of open space behind you, because the likelihood is that if you can't do it, you're going to fall back. If you don't have a weight for a counterbalance, there's a few extra things you can try. Let's go to the wall. Just stand maybe a foot apart from the wall. Come down so that your butt is just barely touching. Just barely touching. So if you do fall back, you fall back right here. If you can't get up, just come to the side and come over. But again, the approach is that if you're here, you slowly get down. Then it's a much safer approach. Let's go back. So let's just say you can get partially down. One of the things you can do with your counterweight is just hold it here. Even a kettlebell will work. You just hold it here and rotate just a little bit. Side to side and rotation. Great way to open up the hips. Keep the spine at the base of our spine in a neutral position. Stretches out your calves, your quads, your glutes, your lower back. This is a great position. So, I cannot tell you how often to do it or for how long to hold it, but you have to recognize that you have to do it inside of your tolerance. And tolerance means, how do you feel while you're doing it? How do you feel that night? How do you feel that morning? If you feel like you're okay that night and the next morning, then you can do it a little bit longer or a few more repetitions during the day. If you feel like you're too sore, give a day's rest and then do less when you come back to it. Again, muscle imbalances are strength versus flexibility. If you can get into this stretch, then you need to focus on strengthening your weaker muscle groups. Now, I know the other day that I said that my wife's guru, Panache Desai, has this thing where he calls his followers my sweet friends. He says that in everything that he said, every time he opens up to his people, he says, my sweet friends, which I think is really good. He also has something that he says at the end of his speeches, and he says, you are built for this. We are in the middle of a pandemic. We are in the middle of a uncharted territory in the way we're living our lives. I'm telling you that either your family, your coworkers, your community, or possibly even the world needs you to be as strong as possible when we come out of this. I'm showing you some very simple stretches and exercises to improve your life, not only on the way you feel physically, but nutritionally, as well as your thoughts, feelings, and emotions about your current situation and the way the world is. So know that you are built for this. Take time for yourself to prepare yourself when the world opens up again, so that we can all rejoice and be happy again. Until next time, take care.